Hello and good morning to everyone again. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to everyone for our today's webinar, Email Mila Kya, Getting into the Inbox. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. We have already started receiving lots of questions about the email deliverability and how to deliver the emails in inbox. This shows the excitement and curiosity about the topic and also proves the point that this is really a very crucial and important topic for all of us. We all are trying to seek golden rules that will help us deliver all the emails in everyone's inbox. Today we have Mr. Naresh Bhaktani with us, who will let us know how to deliver these emails in the inbox. Naresh is Managing Director at Niche Software Solutions. He is the architect behind the email marketing product Juvlon. His valuable experience of over 8 years in the field of email marketing has helped us engineer and market Juvlon. Besides running the business, he actively consults clients on best practices and strategy to derive most out of email marketing. My name is Smita and I'm working with Niche Software Solutions as a marketing manager and handle marketing for email marketing tool Juvlon. Before we turn all our attention over to Naresh, I just have few announcements to be made for this webinar. Please note our session is being recorded and we'll have the link available with everyone after the session. We have kept everyone on mute to ensure that any background noise and conversations are kept private. To ask questions, please make use of the question box on your GoToWebinar window. Write your comments, questions and anything that you want us to see in this question box. Post Naresh's presentation, we'll try to attend all your questions and just in case if we do not get to your question during the live webinar, we'll be preparing a question and answer document which we'll be sharing with everyone later. Now with this, I would invite Naresh to deliver the session. Over to Naresh. Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Naresh Bhaktani. That's me on the screen. And I'm the head of the company Niche Software, which has created the email marketing product Juvlon. I've contributed to the development of Juvlon since the past 6 years, and I've been consulting on email marketing since the last 8 or more. But enough about me already. This webinar is not about me. This webinar is about making sure your emails are technically sound to be delivered. They should comply to the best practices adopted by ISPs. And throughout this webinar, I will be making several references to the term ISPs. And that simply means Internet Service Providers. And in our case, as email marketers, it means companies like Yahoo, Gmail, Outlook.com, AOL, all those large web mail service providers that provide consumers with mailboxes. And as marketers, ISPs provide us our audience, and they've got some rules. So here's the agenda for our webinar today. I will cover email delivery stats in good detail. Then we'll head into technology bits with authentication, reputation, list hygiene. And finally, we'll conclude with a summary and a few words of wisdom. Right, so let's begin with the state of email delivery today. We'll head straight away into a poll. Now, I'd like to ask you, what is your idea of inbox placement? What do you think is the inbox placement rate of emails in general? When you send a large amount of email, you and I both know about that 100% inbox delivery is a misnomer. There is no such thing. So I'd like to know if you, as a marketer, have an idea, general idea about email inbox delivery rate, like a worldwide average. So we'd like to see your choices. We'll give it a few more seconds for most of you to have your vote cast in. Well, you can guess, really. This I see about 70% have voted in, and the rest of you just guess a number. Yeah, there's no big deal. Nobody's gonna, know about it. Right, so now I think we're going to close the poll, and the results are on your screen. About 50 to 60%. I mean, you're going to have a very, we have a bleak outlook, isn't it, as people over here. I wonder if that's, okay, there must be some reason behind it, but let's give you, and let's have a reality check. The reality check is that return path says the average inbox placement rate is 78%, and we are a lot more pessimistic. We're at 50 to 60%. Okay, but return path is an email deliverability and certification company. They work with several large corporations to manage their email reputation. These numbers, what you're seeing on the screen, are a little dated. They are a year old, but it gives you an idea that 1 in 5 emails do not reach the inbox. Of course, these numbers are for permission-based opt-in email marketing. Okay, some things that they take for granted around the, in the Western world, whereas here in India, that's not taken for granted. So, and in the same report, return path also says getting into the Gmail inboxes is tougher than the other webmail providers. That's interesting. That's really interesting to know. So if it's tougher to get into Gmail inbox, do you know what kind of market share does Gmail or Yahoo or Outlook.com have? It makes a difference. This is a slide that shows the market share. Who's where? These are big numbers, people. Out of more than 3.5 billion email users, email accounts out there in the world, Gmail, Yahoo, and Hotmail, what used to be Hotmail now is Outlook.com, claim more than 1 billion users. Gmail itself says that it has more than 425 million users. Yahoo says it has more than 300 million, 302 million, and Outlook.com claims 360 million users. Now, Gmail also says makes a whopper of a claim, saying 62% of email addresses in India are actually Gmail, which means nearly 2 out of every 3 email consumers in India have Gmail accounts. That is huge. I can't vouch for any of these numbers. They are all published independently by each of these companies. Maybe we should ask Narendra Modi. His election campaign claims to have reached out to 144 million internet users, mostly Indian. So we'll get those verified somehow. Okay, speaking of Gmail share in India, now Gmail claims to have 62% market share in India. Do you know how much of a market share Gmail has in your own subscriber list? I'd like you to let us know a little bit. Share this kind of information with the rest of your brethren here to figure out what is the percentage of Gmails in your list. Let's see those votes coming in. consumer emails in India. So by their own claim and our experience, Gmail is #1 in India. Also, I endorse what Uttanpal says in their report too. Gmail is very active on spam filtering and inbox placement. Hence, it is one of the toughest ISPs to get your emails through to the user's inbox. So for coming further, there are a few slides in this presentation that address Gmail specifically, right? Now that we've covered the numbers, I'd like to move on to the requirements that you need to make sure you have so that you can deliver well, technically. And these are some of the requirements. There are 4 requirements over here. They're called email engagement. Of course, email engagement is not what we're dealing with in this webinar. It's out of the scope of this webinar. What I'm talking about is having email authentication in place, your reputation in place, and list hygiene, right? So we'll cover each of these things in a little more detail. Email authentication, right? What do you mean? Are you sure you are you? And how do I know that? In the email world, when a recipient ISP receives an email, it asks these questions. How do I make sure you're authentic? How do I know you're really you? And how do I make sure you're really coming from where you are? That's what email authentication is really about. Validation of the sender, validation of the source of the email. You know, I remember I used to get a lot of emails telling me that I'm a customer of this bank and for some reason I should check my account. Or similarly from PayPal and eBay. And all these emails were spoofed. That means they were spammers pretending to be a bank, or they were pretending to be eBay or PayPal, in the hope that you as a user would believe them. They'd ask you to fill out a form with your personal details, and this is called phishing. And they were very successful at these illegal operations. So ISPs and corporations took up the onus of protecting their users from this forgery and fraud. And so then they adopted these authentication methods of SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. And these are the organizations who actually took the lead in doing so. And at some point in the past, these organizations decided we're going to accept and give more preference to emails which are authenticated using SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. And I'll tell you what these mean. They sound a little too technical, but you know what? I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible for you to understand. Layman's language. Let's start with SPF. SPF is Sender Protection Framework. You see, the technical people like to make things sound a little complicated. Okay, so they should have called it Sender Address Forgery Prevention. It's because that's actually what it is. You, as a sender, don't want anybody else to send your emails, and you, in a sense, want to protect the source of your own mail sending, which means you specify a mail server that is authorized to send your emails, right? And where do you specify this authorized mail server? In your own domain DNS record. So when the recipient server receives an email from you, it checks in your DNS whether it has been received from the same mail server specified over there. If the name servers match, your email passes the SPF, or it fails. The SPF authentication fails. Now I'll give you an example of this SPF record. Look at this DNS record, which is a TXT entry. Now I know it might sound a little complicated, but your email marketing service provider should be able to help you out with these very easily. This is run-of-the-mill stuff they do every day. It starts with the V equal to SPF1, which simply defines the protocol, the methodology. it also says MX, which means example.net, the mail server of example.net is an authorized sending server of emails. Then it says include ASPMX googlemail.com. So that's Gmail. The include means whatever is authorized by Gmail is also authorized for example.net. So if there are some sending servers that have been authorized by Gmail to send mails, those are good for example.net as well. Those are valid servers for example.net. And further, -all means no other servers are authorized. And all these records, what you're seeing over here, are in public domain. So you can check your domain's SPF record by going to mxtoolbox.com. You can also check if you're compliant to SPF just by simply going to openspf.org, that URL listed on the screen on top. Now I'm going to cover DKIM very quickly. Right? DKIM, it's actually pronounced as DKIM and stands for Domain Keys Identified Mail. This authentication technology allows a sender to put the sending domain signature into the email directly. So the email carries some authentic information within itself. The recipient verifies this authenticity after receiving this mail. But how does it identify this? By recreating the same signature and comparing it with the one that has been received. Okay, let me give you an analogy here. It's something I haven't thought about it very well, but your friend gives you a burger, without the wrapper on it, and says this is a new one. This is a new burger from McDonald's. You've never had this burger before. You say it could be from McDonald's, it could be from KFC, Burger King, who knows? Yeah, your friend does, but you don't know that. But there is a way for you to find out. What you need to do is you need to carry the burger to McDonald's, order the same burger, bite into both of them. And if they taste the same, voila, you have a true friend who gives you second-hand burgers, right? But no, seriously, what you just did was verify the source. DKIM does the same thing for email. And let me tell you exactly how it works. I'm just going to read this out. Let's see how much you guys understand. The sending server inserts domain signature into your email header. The signature is actually an encrypted hash value. The receiving server decrypts the signature to get the hash value. The receiving server also generates the same hash value using a key through your sending DNS. The receiving server compares both the hash values. If they are the same, DKIM passes. DKIM passes. Now that was a simplistic explanation. As marketers, you can get away with not understanding this stuff. It happens on your sending server. You need to make sure your sending server or your email marketing software can handle DKIM, and that you can add a simple entry in your domain DNS record. Finally, you need to be able to check if your emails are actually compliant. Get onto the website of DKIM, SPF, and DMARC. That's what we'll be covering next. And they have several tools available to show you your compliance. I'm going to cover DMARC very quickly now. This is the third email authentication. Domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance, DMARC. Let's just call it DMARC. A DMARC policy allows a sender to indicate that their mails are protected by SPF and or DKIM. It also tells the receiver what to do if neither of these authentication methods passes. Okay, so I'm giving an example. Say you've put the correct records for SPF and DKIM. You're doing the right thing. SPF and DKIM already good. Yes. But what do you think when an ISP receives a message which claims to be from you? So this is spam. An ISP has received spam. They're claiming to be you. The SPF of that email will fail because it's coming from an unauthorized server. And the DKIM will also fail because the signatures don't match. So each of these failures will actually increase the spam score of that mail, and the ISP may put the mail into the junk folder once the email crosses a particular spam threshold. But it just may, because every ISP has its own threshold. You as a brand and a reputed sender don't know for sure where that mail lands up. It could actually come up in the inbox even after failing authentication. See, the authentication, all these authentication methods actually increase by being compliant to these authentication methods. You're increasing your chances of being into the inbox, getting into the inbox. That means you're reducing your spam score of that mail. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed a place in the inbox. There are other factors at play. Stuff that is not being covered in this webinar, especially that email engagement and list acquisition techniques. So anyway, but this is where DMARC comes in. Say if SPF and DKIM fail, you want that mail to be destroyed, or the ISP should never accept a mail that is not coming from you. That is pretending to be you, but it's not coming from you. So DMARC lets you define that clear policy for handling these failed messages. It could actually limit or eliminate the recipient's exposure to potentially fraudulent and harmful messages. DMARC also provides a way for the email receiver to report back to the sender about messages that pass or fail these authentication methods. Implementation of this is very simple. It's just another little entry into your domain DNS record, like this one over here. No special sending configuration, no signature. This is just like SPF. In this example, the sender requests that the receiver should completely reject all messages that do not pass authentication. And they should send a report to that specified address about all the failed authentications. So you can actually get a report of things. It's time for another poll. It's time for a poll where I'm going to ask you whether you are sending out authentic mails or not, authenticated mails or not. So Smita, yes, that's the question. Are you sending authenticated mails? Nope. I don't know there is. I know there is no authentication. You're pretty sure about that. Your second choice is, I don't know, I'll need to check. Your third, you might have SPF. You think you have SPF. Fourth, you could have SPF DKIM, or you have all three of them. So we're going to give it a couple of seconds. And we'll, oh yeah, okay, we have more participation in this poll. Excellent. We have, all right, we have 90% already in. I'm gonna say that we're pretty much done with this poll. Let's show the results. Smita, we'll share the results, and the results are on the screen. It says, most of you don't know. There is, the far second, the distant second. 64% say that you don't know, you'll need to check. And you can go to those websites of SPF, DKIM, DMARC to check that, or you could simply ask your email service provider if they want to check that, or you can give us a call later and we'll check it for you. But 16% of you say that yes, you do have SPF and DKIM both. That's encouraging. That's really. All right, and third comes in where some people are pretty clear that they do not have authentication in place. No problem. So, all right. Maybe you'll get us a call, give us a call. Maybe we'll give you a call. How's that? Right. So I'm harping about email authentication, but actually, and this is important, Gmail and everybody else is accepting mails with authentication. Not just that, it's giving high points on authentication. And these are some of the numbers to show you how important authentication has become to your email marketing success. These numbers were published by Gmail. Last year, 91.4% of emails that landed into the Gmail inbox were authenticated, which means we have 8.6% who were non-authenticated that managed to creep into the inbox. But I can tell you for sure that this number will reduce over time, and they'll be weeded out if they don't comply. It's been about a year that DMARC has been launched, and more than 60% of world's mailboxes are already protected by it. These are encouraging numbers, my friends. Those who don't know, the 64% of you over here who don't know that their emails are authenticated or not, it's about time you found out. All right, so we'll go on to the next topic. The email authentication is covered. We're talking about reputation next. And reputation, what parts of reputation are we talking about? Your reputation matters a lot in the online world, as it does in the offline world. So, but in the online world, it's called digital reputation, and it depends on your deeds, just like in the offline world. Your email reputation is gauged by these parameters. IP reputation. That's your sending IP reputation, your sending domain reputation, and whether you're listed on any of those third-party blacklists, the spam reports that you're getting on your email, and there is something of a Gmail unsubscribe, which I hope will be an eye-opener for you. So I'm going to cover that as well. Let's talk about IP reputation. Now, you should be checking your IP reputation. Every mail that goes out, that you send out, goes out with an IP. That's the sending IP. And if that IP has a good reputation, the chances of it landing into an inbox are good. How do you check that? The IP of a mail can be found out by looking at the header. Check the IP, get the IP, go into senderscore.org, punch the IP in, and you will get a result something like this. Above 90 is good. Senderscore.org, yeah, senderscore.org, and you need to be clear that your sender IP score should be above 90. And in order to do that, in order to get that, but that's not how you start. Yeah, when you start mailing, your IP score is never about 90. It only gets to that part when you're consistent with your mailing, and you have a regular volume that you're mailing, which means even though your mailing may be as frequent as 3 times a week or once in a fortnight or once in a month, keep it consistent. There are these organizations like Return Path who manages sender score that check for traffic or every IP. I don't know how they do that, but they do. So sending IP is important. Sending domain is also very important. You need to make sure that your domain is not listed anywhere, and especially not on Spamhaus, not on URIBL. These two websites, if you have, these are third-party blacklists. If you have your domain listed over here, your delivery will be severely affected. Right? So all you do is just go onto the website, punch in the sending domain that you have, and see if it is listed or not in these blacklists. The next is checking your IP being listed in any of those blacklists. Spamhaus also has an IP blacklist, not just a domain blacklist. But you have one place that you can go to, mxtoolbox.com, punch in your IP or domain, and see if you're listed on any of those blacklists. even if, I mean, there are like more than 100 blacklists here. It doesn't mean that, I mean, you're not listed. Even if you're listed on one of the unknown ones, that shouldn't cause you any damage as such. The ones that you really need to really watch out for are sorbs as a blacklist and spam hosts as a blacklist. Those are the ones which are very critical, because a lot of the recipient servers, they look at those blacklists. If you're listed over there, they'll drop your mail like a hotcake. Let's move on to FBL. Oh, I've jumped lots of slides here, huh? Sorry. There you go, FBL. FBL, or spam reports, basically. FBL means feedback loops. Every ISP, well, most ISPs give you information if your mail has been reported as spam. If a recipient reports your mail as spam, the ISP gives that information back to you. Usually, this information comes through your email marketing service. Your email marketing service should be able to facilitate this for you and give you a report of people who've been marking you as spam. But not every ISP provides that, and not every ISP provides detailed information to the knowledge that they will provide you the name of the person or the email of the person who has marked you as spam. But this gives you an idea whether your mails are being accepted or they're not. There's a high percentage of spam reporting. Now, ISPs watch this spam reporting very carefully on your mailing. They create a reputation for you based on the spam reporting. This is data that is internal to them. They don't share this reputation out. So you got to watch those spam reports coming in. Second, I'm sorry, Nick. The one part of reputation is this Gmail unsubscribe. Gmail maintains sender reputation separately. Now the thing is, Gmail started this unsubscribe facility against your sender name very recently, say in February of this year, 2014. Even if you're compliant to SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, Gmail does not show that unsubscribe link out there. It says that the unsubscribe link is only for privileged senders, so to speak. So what it does is check your sender reputation over a period of time, and only after that, and once it finds its consistent mailing, and it sees that there aren't enough spam reports on this, then it shows you the unsubscribe facility. Which means now people have an option. When they click on report spam, they have a clear option in Gmail to unsubscribe. Not everybody gets that. Only those people who are consistent in their mailing and have a good reputation with Gmail and are compliant to SPF, DKIM, and DMARC get that unsubscribe button. So if you have that, you know you stand in good repute with Gmail. Right? Now, we'll move on to something called list hygiene. You see, so far what we've done is we've covered everything to do with how to make your mails technically more sound, right? Things that are very much in your control, things that the data that can be shared with by your ISP, by your email marketing service provider to you, and where you have an option to switch also if you'd like to. I haven't talked about what your campaign should be, how you should be governing your lists, how your list acquisition should be, how you should measure engagement. Those are different topics for another webinar. These are more technical issues to make sure that your email is really delivering technically well. List hygiene is one of them. List hygiene we specifically mean by bounce management. What we mean by bounce management is you've got to watch your bounces. You've got to make sure that they're ideally under 5%. And there are two types of bounces that you should be really watching, the hard bounces and the soft bounces. The hard bounces are those that are permanent bounce, as in the user does not exist. See, if the user does not exist today, it's unlikely that the user starts existing tomorrow. So those are considered to be hard bounces, and those need to be deactivated immediately. You see, ISPs, they watch what you're doing. If you're continuously sending out mails to the hard bounced email IDs, email addresses, they consider you to be a spammer and they de-repute you because you have no bounce management or bad list hygiene. So the hard bounces need to be deactivated immediately. Soft bounces are those which are not, you're not sure they might actually, you might actually start delivering them to them tomorrow. Sometimes it happens that like the mailbox is full. So once the subscriber checks the mailbox would start delivering again. Your mail would start delivering in their mailbox again. Or say if your sending IP has been de-reputed, so the recipient ISP does not accept your mail because of bad reputation, but if you switch your reputation or change your reputation, that mail would actually go through into the mailbox, the inbox of the client. So those are soft bounces, and you need to reduce soft bounces to a minimum. So you've got to watch your bounces. All right, so we're coming to an overall conclusion of our quick seminar about delivering mails that are technically sound. What have we learned? Authenticate, authenticate, authenticate. Check your numbers, IP and domain reputations, watch your bounces, and be consistent with your mailing. That helps you build your reputation. The rest is up to list acquisition, engagement, and content. I mean, by doing all these things that we just talked about, you're not guaranteed a place in the inbox. The real guarantee would come in when your subscribers are happy with the mailing that they're receiving. So in conclusion, this was something that actually was told in an interview. Andrew Bonar, he's the head of email delivery at Campaign Monitor. He asked Sri Somanchi is the head of Gmail anti-spam thing, the team, the think tank. So Sri was asked this question: how can I make sure my email lands into the inbox and always lands in the inbox? And this Sri had a very interesting answer. He says, think of how you can make your user love your mails rather than how they land into your inbox. And that's some golden words out there. Words of wisdom. I told you we'll be ending with a summary and some words of wisdom. These are the words of wisdom from Sri Somanchi, who's the head of the Gmail anti-spam team. So good words there. We will take questions now. Okay, so what is this question essentially covers the entire webinar. So how do we make sure that email reaches the inbox, and how do we plan mailers? Now, get your authentication in place. That's the first thing, right? And check the reputation of your sending infrastructure, which means you're sending IP and domains. Then you got to test your mails. You always have a seed list. Before you send out the mail, have a seed list of email accounts which are across the board: Gmail, Hotmail, Outlook.com, Rediffmail. Did I miss something? Yahoo, and even your own corporate mails if you have some. Check if the mail is actually delivering in there. That's one way to make sure that the email is delivering, although it's not mass yet. Once you get good delivery, then you send out the mail. Apart from the fact that you need to have authentication, reputation, etc., all that in place. Right. There is one question from Pratnesh. We are facing an issue of Gmail delivery with our existing vendor. We're not able to send mails to Gmail. IP reputation also good on sender score. DKIM and SPF are in place. Yes. How do you handle the same? No, it's tricky. Gmail doesn't make things very transparent, unfortunately. You may not be listed anywhere. You may have a good reputation. You may have a good sending score figure. But even so, Gmail has its own method of gauging your reputation. So I would suggest try changing the sending domain or the IPs that have been allotted to you, and warm up. There is something that I haven't really covered in this webinar. When you start with a new set of say sending infrastructure, right? You start with a new sending domain and you start with some new IPs. Always make sure you warm up. Gmail does not like to receive hundreds of thousands of mails or even tens of thousands of mails from unknown IPs. They'd like you to start small, increase over a period of time. I mean, I'm talking about within 24 hours, double your accounts. Start with as low as 2,000 and then move up to 4,000, 8,000, 10,000, and within a week you can move up to 100,000 easily. But make sure you do the warm-up. We faced this problem before. We did the warm-up and actually Gmail was kind to our client. So that's one little thing that we haven't actually covered in this webinar. We'll move on to the next question. If we include SPF settings, does it bind us legally? I'm not sure what that question actually means, Amit. Does it bind us legally? In one way, does it legally, meaning what you're doing, you're in a way protecting your brand. So legally you are protecting your brand, yeah, and digitally you are protecting your brand. I'm not sure what other ways are we talking about. One of the questions I see here from Jesu is, does inbox mean inbox or promotions tab or any other tab in Gmail? Now, for our discussion over here, inbox is generally the inbox. Generally, all the tabs that you see in the inbox. Now, the promotion tab is also the inbox tab, is within the inbox for Gmail. We are not really getting into the why and the wherefore, why Gmail goes and puts your mails into the promotion tab, but the promotion tab is also the inbox. So for our conversation here, we're talking about the inbox in general. It could be any tab in Gmail. Just a second. Even if you have SPF, DKIM settings in place, does it guarantee that your mails will land up in the inbox? Amit Srivastav has that question, but I've already covered that. No, it does not guarantee your place in the inbox. Yeah, it gives you points. It reduces your spam score by having authentication in place, SPF, DKIM, DMARC. What you're doing is you're reducing your spam score. It means you're making your emails technically viable to be placed in the inbox. But that's not the only thing ISPs look at, right? They look at your reputation in the past, and they look at your email, your engagement of your own subscribers. They see the spam reports that have been taking place, and then they decide on the especially Gmail looks at behavior of each and every user and then pushes the mail into the inbox. So there are many things to play here, but this is the minimum requirement that you need to have, SPF and DKIM. If you don't have this, you are unlikely to be placed in the inbox. If you have a sending email address as newsletter, and your reply email address is different, does this make a difference in the email campaigns? No, it doesn't. But one thing is that it makes sense to have the same sending address and the same reply to address. You know why? Because what happens is, if a person does reply to you, your email gets into their address book. So what is happening is that your email, that reply email, automatically gets into their address book. Any future mails from that email address lands up in the inbox. So you're increasing your reputation by having the same reply email address, because there may be a whole bunch of people who might reply to your email, and the next mail that you send them is literally you're actually guaranteeing a place in their inbox. So having a different reply to address does not mean that you'll lose out. I mean, it will make a difference in delivery, but over a period of time, your reputation will increase if you have the same reply to address as your sending address. Okay, and we will we'll go with the last question here. Gmail looks at user engagement for deciding inbox delivery. Yes, it does. That's right. How should brands work on this, especially those who plan on promotional mailers? Sita asked that question, deep, very deep. And that's to do a lot with email engagement, right? And I'm afraid that is not being covered in this particular scope of this webinar, but we'll try to cover that in the next time. I said, how should they work on that? Multiple ways. Yeah, but I'll tell you what. Since I couldn't answer this question, I'll take one more question. The last question. What is the standard rate for email marketing, open rate for email marketing in India? Okay, what is the standard open rate for email marketing in India? It's difficult to answer that question with a clear number. Frankly, there is no email marketing association in India that is checking all these things. There is no third-party organization that is collecting this kind of data so that it can be published as industry-level analytics. And the open rate of email marketing in India now, so you'll have to take a specific type of open rate, the ones which are not spam, which are permission-based opt-in email marketing list. And if you take those numbers, you will reach pretty much the global average open rate. Okay, so we are talking about open rate. So delivery rate will be the global average, where about 80% of the mails do go into inboxes, provided we are talking about permission-based opt-in email marketing. Standard open rate for email marketing in India is that's very difficult to call. Standard open rate for promotions is different. Transactional mail is different. Standard open rate for different industries is different. I really don't have an answer, but for promotional mail, if you're getting 10 to 12%, I think you're doing pretty well. I can answer that. And okay, I think we're done. I think we're out of time. We'll have to close it for now. I want to thank you all for attending this webinar. I hope it was a good learning experience for you.
Yes, and even I would like to thank you, Naresh, for all this useful information that you have that you have shared with all of us. I would also again like to thank everyone for all your time and all the attendance and the answers that you have shared with us through the poll. Friends, with this we are ending today's session. You all have the rest of the wonderful day and wonderful week. Thank you, everybody.